This is the Brisnet.com call-in show on the Horse Racing Radio Network. The phone lines are open. Call now, 888-966-HRRN. That's 888-966-4776. Now, here's Bobby Neuman.
Good evening. Welcome to the Brisnet.com call-in show here on HRRN. Bobby Neuman along with Vance Hansen. Our good friend James Scully is getting his degeneracy in full mode this weekend. Of course, it is Travers weekend, and our friend Vance Hansen ably going to fill in for his colleague James Scully. You're our HRRN Nation. Give us a call, 888-966-4776. Vance, I know you're as excited as James is about the Travers coming up this Saturday.
Hey, Bobby, good to be with you tonight. The Travers is going to be a super race on Saturday. Got a great field of 8 going postward, and major 3-year-old championship implications on the line, so it should be a good race.
Let's get out to the phones now. Tom in St. Louis. You've got Bobby and Vance on the Brisnet.com call-in show.
Bobby, Vance, gentlemen, how are you?
Doing well, my friend.
Good. I just wanted to start early. You mentioned the St. Louis Derby, and I thought with everybody wanting to talk Travers over the weekend, I'd get my thoughts out of the way on the past. Bobby, I know you and I have disagreed about horses in the past, but I have to tell you, I was there Saturday night. War Campaign, from the time he came onto the racetrack, physically looked so much the best horse. I mean, it was unbelievable. And I know, he'd had those works at Keeneland, and, it had been beaten by the 2-horse, the Stewart horse, the last couple times out. But I got to tell you, I thought we had it, and when I saw what the horse was on the morning line, I really was struggling to believe he was bet down as cheap as he was. But I thought he'd be at least double that 5-1 price. But the question I ask is, you mentioned the odyssey, the strange odyssey of Shake, Rattle, and Roll, and then you look at Tuesday, and Bobby, you made this point, and I have to take it to heart. The St. Louis Derby was, what, $100,000 more than the Smarty Jones, but the Smarty Jones was a grade 3. McPeak chose to run Creative Minister in for the graded win, as opposed to bringing him to St. Louis. I thought that would have been the horse that he would have brought to St. Louis, but I just wonder, with them running that race on a Saturday night, if they'd run that on a Tuesday afternoon, maybe they'd have more people travel to it, jockeys and trainers. I know McPeak was there personally, but, I just wonder if some of these racetracks should follow Park's mode and run their big stakes races, on the Monday or Tuesday or off day of these racetracks. So, the Ortizes and Flavian Pratt and those trainers would travel in. Just kind of some thoughts, but I thought of you Saturday night, especially when you had talked about that horse before and all that. But I just wanted to call and thanks for the suggestion. Talk to you soon, guys. Thanks.
Appreciate the call, Tom. And Vance, Tom is from St. Louis. He's a big proponent of the racing there at Fairmount Park. Not that he's on air saying that Fairmount Park is head and shoulders with some of the other racetracks around the country. He just wants them to get their due. I will say this, in my opinion, Tom. First of all, Parks has more quote-unquote big races than Fairmount Park has. Fairmount Park has one big race during the year. It's the St. Louis Derby. Parks has several. You mentioned the Smarty Jones, but obviously there's the Pennsylvania Derby. There's the Gallant Bob. There's the Cotillion, and there's the Turf Monster or whatever. They've got a lot of graded stakes is not. They've got several of them, so they're able to space them out a little bit. And I think I'm not sure, is the Pennsylvania Derby on a weekday, or are they running a special Saturday for it this year?
I think they're running it on a Saturday this year. They've done that pretty much their entire or at least for the last decade or two. They've done that. You make some great points, Bobby, and I do want to tell the listener I attended the St. Louis Derby at Fairmount way back in 2006 when Lawyer Ron won it, and it fell on the same day as the Travers that was won by Bernardini, and that was an absolutely terrific Saturday night crowd at Fairmount for the St. Louis Derby. The situation has kind of changed since 2006. I mean, Saratoga and Del Mar are taking, even more of the wagering dollars compared to other tracks that are running at the same time. And I agree that if Fairmount, or FanDuel Racing as it's called now, wants to maximize not only handle but perhaps crowd attendance, it might be smart to move a race like the St. Louis Derby to a weekday afternoon or evening, and it boost the exposure of the race from going forward.
I will say this, and by the way, I'm looking it up. So the Pennsylvania Derby, which is a Grade 1, same day as the Gallant Bob, the Cotillion, the Greenwood Cup, they are on a Saturday, September 24th this year. And I think the management at Parks was wrestling with this earlier in the meet. When they were making their stake schedule, they know that they get a lot more wagering on their Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday cards. That's why they're running on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays. And they struggled with, do we want to be the kingpins on a Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, or do we want to give folks a chance to actually come out here and go to the track and run it on a Saturday and know that, hey, we're going to have to go against probably a stake or two at Churchill Downs, probably a stake or two up at Aqueduct, possibly something up at Woodbine, possibly races at Pimlico, which they are having to do that. Now, as it turns out, that Pennsylvania Derby card on September 24th is by far the biggest card of anywhere else in North America that day. But still, I think they're doing it because, hey, this is a big deal. It's supposed to be run on a Saturday. They're going to, possibly forego some of the off-track money, the ADW money that they would get by doing this on a Tuesday or Wednesday, and let the people who are here in the area or people who want to travel and see these big races come here on a weekend, and that's what Parks is going to do. Let's go back out to the phones. Vince in California. You've got Bobby and Vance on the Brisnet.com call-in show.
Hey, Bobby. I was kind of down and out a couple of weeks ago when I called, but Charles made me feel a lot better because he said he got shut out of that race also. So I mean, it was pretty fun to hear Charles talking about me, and I went home and played the call over to my son. We were cracking up, and I was hoping James was there because James really picked me up. Last week he gave out a pick on Friday, his last minute play. And I was going up the 405, Bobby, and I was thinking, should I stop or should I go? And I pulled over into Hollywood Park Casino, made the bet, and hit the late pick 4 there at Saratoga, thanks to James, and really brought me back. It was a nice hit. It was a $1,400 pick 4, and I really kind of needed that because I had a tough Saratoga when I went to visit, and I wanted to. If James was listening, I wanted to thank him because that kind of steered me back to feeling pretty good about myself and the game in general.
Well, it's good news, and James will be back next week, and I'm sure he'd love to hear it. By the way, I don't know if you remember this, but James's play of the weekend last week was a horse named Hall of Dreams in the Queen's Plate, and Hall of Dreams actually ran second at 16-1, and I actually texted him right afterwards. I said, man, I know that you somehow backed this horse up with the filly who destroyed that field. It was a great selection by James at 16-1. Obviously, it's a monumental selection if he somehow wins the race, but running second at 16-1 is a great play, and I know there are a lot of people who backed into cashing a little bit on James's selection last week in the Queen's Plate as well. So glad that you were able to cash a little bit, Vince, and you're right. Anytime Charles calls up, he kind of brings a smile to everybody's face, and if you think he's good on the phone, if you ever have a chance to meet him in person, which you can do if you're ever at Oaklawn Park, because he's there for most of the meet, he's a really personable guy and a lot of fun to be around.
Yeah, I'll see Charles, and my friend owes me a trip, so we're looking at 2024 for Oaklawn. And getting back to that race, though, Bobby, I'll tell you something. I was at Los Alamitos, and I had my ticket, and I used James's one horse in the Multes, and I also had him underneath. But I asked this question to the trainer on Monday. that winner was having so much sweat and lather on the neck that I don't like that. So I went back. I had 8-1. I had 8 to win, all kinds of stuff. I went back and changed it. It was my bad, and I learned something. That horse had what he called a chest plate. So it was only sweaty on the neck area, but not having kidney sweat. But I still don't bet a horse when they're that washed out. And I learned something there. But so I'm sure some people heard that on Monday from the trainer. Don't get thrown off if that horse shows a lot of sweat in the neck area, because it's from this chest plate. And darn it, maybe we're going to have a hell of a showdown with that horse and Nest and somewhere down the road.
Yeah, that would certainly be something. Really appreciate your call, Vince. And Vince, of course, talking about Moira, who was the monstrous winner of the Queen's Plate. She became, I believe, the 38th filly to win the race. That race, they've run that race 163 times, and over 23% of the time a filly beats the boys in the Queen's Plate. Not only did she beat the boys this past weekend, she won by 7 and set a new track record at Woodbine for the 1.25 miles. I don't know what she beat there, because it's hard to compare the synthetic track form at Woodbine to what we're seeing with the 3-year-olds here in this country. But Moira looked really, really good. I don't know if we're ever going to get to see her against fillies like Nest and Secret Oath and those other ones, but it'll be fun to see where she shows up next.
Yeah, I think her connections came out earlier this week and said that they would be bypassing the second leg of the Canadian Triple Crown, the Prince of Wales Stakes at Fort Erie. So, but she is, they are looking to get some graded black type into her. I think she might be actually considering the cotillion that you mentioned earlier when we were talking about Park. So yeah, their goal right now is to get some graded black type for her, and she will have to try dirt surface for the first time, try graded stakes quality horses. She has been basically dominating Canadian bred so far, but she sure looked like a filly with a lot of talent winning the Queen's Plate the way she did.
Yeah, certainly did. Folks, Travers weekend is right around the corner, and wow, are we in for a colossal battle this year. Of course, we're looking forward to a Kentucky Derby rematch and also the chance to win some money. Before placing your bet, be sure to stop by America's Best Racing to get expert insight on the field, the best wagers, and top picks. For the insider knowledge you need to hit big, head to americasbestracing.net or click the link on our website and in today's show notes. We're going to take a break. When we come back, phone lines are open. Give us a call. 888-966-4776 is the number. Bobby Neuman, Vance Hansen, this is the Brisnet.com call-in show.
This is the Brisnet.com call-in show. The phone lines are open. Call now. 888-966-HRRN. That's 888-966-4776.
Do you want unlimited access to handicapping without exorbitant prices? Then Brisnet.com has you covered with a variety of plans for past performances, pedigree, and raw data. Brisnet.com Performance Plan covers unlimited PDF past performances for just $85 per month and is available at Brisnet.com/plans. American Produce Records Online puts the pedigrees of nearly 1 million dams and more than 2 million foals at your fingertips, plus sire stats for only $275 per year and is available at Brisnet.com/APR. The Brisnet.com data plan offers unlimited access to race day data files, perfect for handicappers with their own database or to plug into other people's programs. The data plan is $125 per month. Visit Brisnet.com for all this information and more, and discover why Brisnet is the handicapper's edge.
Mark your calendars for the biggest night of racing in Charlestown history. It's the Grade 2 $1 million Charlestown Classic and Grade 3 $500,000 Charlestown Oaks to be run on the same night, Friday, August 26th. This spectacular card features 7 stakes races and over $2.5 million in purses. Post time is scheduled for 5 o'clock Eastern under the Friday night lights. It's the Charlestown Classic and Charlestown Oaks on Friday, August 26th here at Hollywood Casino at Charlestown Races.
Race the Twin Spires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, Twin Spires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. Twin Spires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit twinspires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Hey, this is Bobby Neuman. Join Dave Friedman and me on Tuesday, September 6th for our exclusive coverage of the Grade 3 Virginia Derby. Tune in beginning at 4:30 p.m. Eastern as we bring you Colonial's premier race along with great action from the undercard. It's the Virginia Derby on HRRN. Tune in on Sirius 216, XM 204, or streaming live at horseracingradio.net.
This is jockey Julian Lopao, and you're listening to HRRN.
This is the Brisnet.com call-in show. The phone lines are open. Call now, 888-966-HRRN. That's 888-966-4776.
Back to the Brisnet.com call-in show along with Vance Hansen. I'm Bobby Neuman, our HRRN Nation. Give us a call. 888-966-4776 is the number to get in. Vance, we are just about on top of the biggest day of the meet at Saratoga, and it's easy to say, but it's hard to say because every day at Saratoga seems like a big day up there. But, of course, this Saturday is the Travers and a whole bunch of other real good graded stakes on the undercard. But let's talk about the Travers, my friend. And it's the Midsummer Derby. We've got a field of 8 very talented 3-year-olds coming together, including the horses who were first, second, and third in this year's Kentucky Derby.
That's right. Rich Strike, who won the Derby at 80-1, is back. It's his second start since winning the Derby. He didn't perform too well in the Belmont Stakes, but they're plugging along. They're going to try and get back into the championship picture a little bit and hope for a very hot pace and that he can mow the horses down again. It's going to be a little more difficult, I think. I don't envision a very record-setting pace in this Travers. I mean, early voting, the Preakness winner looks like the controlling speed on paper. And then, of course, we have a fourth showdown this year between Epicenter and Zandon, the second and third place finishers from the Derby. Zandon has yet to finish ahead of Epicenter in the 3 previous outings. I think he was primarily using the Jim Dandy as more of a prep than last time. It was his first start since the Derby. I think he figures to be a lot sharper. And then what can you say about Epicenter? I mean, he's arguably the pro tem leader of the division after winning that Jim Dandy, and then his placing after rough trips in the Kentucky Derby and Preakness. So it's those 3 horses most eyes will be on. And of course we have some other ones. Cyberknife, the Haskell winner, is coming in his peak form, and it should be an outstanding race.
I don't think there's any doubt that the best last race of anyone in the field is the morning line favorite Epicenter. Doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to run that race again this Saturday or that race will be good enough to win the Travers. But I was super impressed by his win in the Jim Dandy. Not so much the fact that he won the race. I did not think that he could come from last in that field of 4 and pass both early voting and Zandon. He's had a bad trend the last few starts of really kind of being flat-footed out of the gate and putting himself further back than he was earlier in his 3-year-old campaign. I mean, heck, when his 3-year-old campaign started, we were wondering if he was a horse that had to have the lead to run well, and he proved that he doesn't have to have the lead to run well, and he showed me last time out in the Jim Dandy, not only does he not have to have the lead, he can actually close into what really is not that fast of a pace and still run well. What kind of trip are you looking for? If you're somebody betting Epicenter, where do you want him to be on Saturday?
I'd say you want him to be in relatively close attendance. He's going to have a target with early voting, as I mentioned. Early voting is the kind of horse who showed in the Preakness that, he possibly would prefer a target, but I don't see who else in this field is going to necessarily going to take the lead away from him. So, early voting is going to be the target. I think Epicenter wants to be relatively close, and he's going to be right off the lead, and he should be coming on late.
You mentioned one of the other horses trying those top 3 Derby finishers is another horse that actually ran in the Derby, Cyberknife. Now, he was a long shot in the Derby. He did not have a very good trip that day. Aside from that race, he's got pretty good form, and he's a winner of the Haskell last time out, where it looked like Taiba was going to win the race. He outgunned Taiba down the stretch. Great ride by Florent Giroux that afternoon, being able to wait and save ground, whereas Taiba had to go to the outside and lose a little bit of ground. That may have been the difference in whether you win or finish second in the Haskell. He's drawn inside once again. Never has raced at Saratoga, but solid works at Saratoga since his arrival up there. How surprised would you be if Cyberknife won the Travers?
Not at all. Brad Cox, and for many months, even going into the Kentucky Derby, said this horse was still trying to figure out the game mentally, and his performance at Churchill Downs it's an obvious draw a line through it. I mean, he was much closer to that record-setting pace than a lot of the other major contenders were, and he simply ran out of gas. His form since then has just been evidence that Cox really has figured it out. This colt has really figured it out. It was a track record setting performance at Monmouth when he beat Taiba in the Haskell. So yeah, he's the now horse going into the Travers. He's getting good at the right time, and he could throw his hat into the 3-year-old championship discussion in the Travers, no doubt about it.
Should be a fun addition to the Grade 1 Travers. Goes as race 11 on the Saturday card at Saratoga. Speaking of the Travers, Conditioner Kelly Von Hemel, who sends out one of the long shots, Ain't Life Grand, will going to join me tomorrow on Betting with Bobby from 4 to 6 Eastern time here on the network to talk about running Ain't Life Grand in the Travers and what it's been like being in New York for the last week. Ain't Life Grand taking an alternate route, if you will, than most Travers runners we see throughout the years. He's coming from his home base in Altoona, Iowa. Prairie Meadows coming off back-to-back wins in the Iowa Derby and an Iowa Stallion Stakes, now facing a much stiffer competition in the Grade 1 Travers on Saturday up at Saratoga. Phone lines remain open. Give us a call. 888-966-4776 is the number. Vance, despite the fact that the Travers is Saturday, it is not the only big race on the Saturday card. In fact, they've got several graded stakes on the undercard, including some of the best fillies and mares in the country taking part in the Grade 1 Personal Ensign at 1 1/8 at Saratoga. Unlike running 1 1/8 at Aqueduct or at Belmont Park, the Saratoga 1 1/8 is a traditional 2-turn 1 1/8, and we've got a short but very sweet field of 5. And Latruska, Search Results, Clariere, Crazy Beautiful, Malathat, a lot of them who are very familiar with one another. With the exception of Nest not being in the race, it looks like the top fillies and mares in the country are all in the Personal Ensign.
You're right about that. These fillies have not been ducking each other at all as they all head towards the Breeders' Cup Distaff, and that's a great thing. And Clariere and Malathat, this will be their third meeting this year against each other. Clariere and Latruska will be meeting for the third time this year. So it's been fun to watch these fillies and mares duke it out throughout the spring and summer. Clariere, you'd have to say, is kind of the Pro 10 leader of this division now, off her back-to-back wins in the Ogden Phipps and the Chouvy. But the form could definitely change in the Personal Ensign. There's not a whole lot separating these fillies if they all run to their A game. So it should be another great race on a great card.
If Crazy Beautiful wins the race, I would be very surprised. Any one of the other four, I could easily see winning the personal ensign. I think they're a cut above Crazy Beautiful going into the race. Let's get out to the phones. Chris in New Jersey. You've got Bobby and Vance on the Brisnet.com call-in show.
Hello, Bobby. Hello, Vance. How are you gentlemen doing this afternoon?
Hey, Chris, what's up, buddy?
Not much. I'm going to preface this by saying you guys are going to think I'm crazy. And I go out on these, I get these theories, and sometimes the theories lead me over the cliff, and sometimes the theories help me do very well in the tournament and qualify me for Vegas, which I just got qualified.
Nice.
My theory here is early voting has a real shot to win this race. And my thought is you had a really deep, tiring track early in Saratoga. Early voting hadn't raced since the Preakness. Early voting needed that race. At first, I looked up and saw the fractions in the Jim Dandy, and I said, this race is over. I mean, they went 48, early voting, but that 48 was on a really deep track, and that wasn't conducive. Now you're looking at the times at Saratoga. That track is becoming back to a more normal Saratoga track. I think it's going to be souped up for Saturday. I think early voting just gets out there and might keep going. There's no other speed in the race. I agree with you, Vance. I would prefer if there was a target for early voting, but there isn't. That horse might get out there and keep going. I greatly respect Cyberknife, though. I was at the Haskell Day. I was all over Tyba, singled in the pick 5, a very significant for me win bet. When Tyba struck the front in the deep stretch, I was counting my money, and then Cyberknife came up on the rail. I'm not sure if Tyba saw Cyberknife, but nevertheless, obviously Monmouth is a difficult track to close on. Cyberknife rated, closed, went right on by. I'm going to be playing that horse as well. I'm looking forward to Saturday. I'm a huge Clariere fan. I think Search Results helps tremendously. Search Results took Latruska last time, Belmont Day, and broke Latruska in half. Broke her. I think Latruska's done. I thought that was the case that day. I'm excited for the racing and interested to hear what you guys have to say, and enjoy the show. And good luck to everyone Saturday. Take care.
Appreciate the call, Chris. Well, Vance, I want your opinion on the races he mentioned. I will tell you this first, Chris. James Scully likes early voting a lot. He texted me the other day, early voting wire to wire. That's the only thing he sent me. So I don't know if that gives you more confidence or less confidence, but we have at least one person that thinks the same way as you, Chris. All right, Vance. He likes early voting in Epicenter and the Travers. He thinks Latruska's done. He thinks Clariere's the one to beat in there. Where do you stand on those two races, my friend?
Well, I can't disagree with any of the points he made about early voting. Saratoga did have a very deep track early in the meet. It was very uncharacteristic performance by him to give up in the stretch after such an easy, comfortable lead. And, his main selling point, besides the tactical advantage on paper for Saturday, is the price he's going to be in. There's going to be a lot of, even despite the fact that he is lone speed on paper, I think there's going to be a lot of people, jumping off his bandwagon, off that Jim Dandy performance, possibly thinking, he's better, with a target ahead of him, perhaps thinking that he's not going to last a mile and a quarter. And, you could be looking at a price at like 9-2, 5-1, perhaps, with, the other main contenders attracting a lot more money. So I'm on with Chris and with James Scully. I think you seriously have to consider early voting as a rebound candidate on Saturday. Then moving on to Latruska, I agree with Chris. I think she was a better filly last year when she won the Eclipse Award. Going off on that big long win streak to win the title last year. I was relatively unimpressed with her first couple of wins this year at Oaklawn. She did beat Clariere that day, but she did have a tactical advantage there. I just don't think she's the same mare that she was last year. Clariere, obviously, Malathot, very tough to beat. He did mention search results. She's kind of my upset play in the personal ensign to possibly upset Clariere and Malathot. I thought she ran the best race of the three in the Ogden Phipps, taking the worst of the pressing punishment of Latruska, and then yet only losing by a little more than 2 lengths. I thought her performance that day was awesome. She followed up with a win in the Molly Pitcher. I think she's going to get first run at Latruska, and it'll be up to Clariere and Malathot to, have her as their target in deep stretch of the personal ensign. So those are kind of where I'm leaning at in those 2 races at the moment.
Let's get one more call in before the break. Lou in Toronto, you've got Bobby and Vance on the Brisnet.com call-in show.
Hey, gentlemen, how you doing?
Lou, for a very brief second there in the Queen's Plate, Ironstone stuck his head out in front, and I was cheering for you, my man.
Oh, you know what, Bobby? Woodbine put a spread on like no other. It was fantastic day. We had a great time. And you know what? They weren't expecting really him to win it, but, finished top 3. That last eighth of a mile really took a toll. But, he came around, and we were cheering, we're proud of him. He came out great of the race. So the Prince of Wales is the next stop for him. And Mora, I heard, is not going to be in any of the Triple Crown races after that plate win. And, what do I know about horse racing, Bobby? I said that Hernandez made a mistake, blah, blah, blah. Next thing you know, track record, she broke. She's like a Dan Smartley, very similar. So I think they're probably going to take her to the States. But, but Ironstone, no, he ran super. We're really happy for the 4th. He gave it all his heart. And Camucci, he ran a great race leading off Minkster, and all the hype on Minkster. But anyways, we'll see what happens in the Prince of Wales, and everything's good. And there's not many short races for him left except the Sing Spiel on the turf. So I don't know if they're going to go for that. But we're so looking forward to his 4-year-old campaign, which will be really special. So champion sprinter, shooting for next, I take it. So.
All right, Lou. Well, we really appreciate the call, and it was a fun ride there leading up to the Queen's Plate with Ironstone. He gave you a thrill, sticking his head in front, going into the far turn, and just got a little bit late with that 1.25 mile distance, but saving fourth, $50,000 Canadian to the 4th place finisher. So I'm sure that was nice effort nonetheless. And Lou, we would appreciate your call anytime you call in here on the Brisnet.com call-in show. We're going to take another break. When we come back, more time for phone calls. 888-966-4776 is the number. This is the Brisnet.com call-in show on HRRN.
This is the Brisnet.com call-in show. The phone lines are open. Call now. 888-966-HRRN. That's 888-966-4776.
Do you want unlimited access to handicapping without exorbitant prices? Then Brisnet.com has you covered with a variety of plans for past performances, pedigree, and raw data. Brisnet.com Performance Plan covers unlimited PDF past performances for just $85 per month and is available at Brisnet.com/plans. American Produce Records Online puts the pedigrees of nearly 1 million dams and more than 2 million foals at your fingertips. Plus, Sire Stats for only $275 per year and is available at Brisnet.com/APR. The Brisnet.com data plan offers unlimited access to race day data files, perfect for handicappers with their own database or to plug into other people's programs. The data plan is $125 per month. Visit Brisnet.com for all this information and more, and discover why Brisnet is the handicapper's edge.
Mark your calendars for the biggest night of racing in Charlestown history. It's the Grade 2 $1 million Charlestown Classic and Grade 3 $500,000 Charlestown Oaks to be run on the same night, Friday, August 26th. This spectacular card features 7 stakes races and over $2.5 million in purses. Post time is scheduled for 5 o'clock Eastern under the Friday night lights. It's the Charlestown Classic and Charlestown Oaks on Friday, August 26th here at Hollywood Casino at Charlestown Races.
Race the Twin Spires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, Twin Spires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. Twin Spires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit twinspires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Hi, this is Kurt Becker. Join me each week on the Equine Forum as I take you on a stroll through racing history presented by Keeneland. This week, I look back at the racing career of Forgo. Listen live on the Equine Forum every Saturday morning on Sirius 216 or XM 204, or visit our website at horseracingradio.net to access the archives and enjoy past editions. It's a stroll through racing history with me, Kurt Becker, presented by Keeneland, only here on HRRN.
Hi, this is Calvin Burrow. You're listening to the Horse Racing Radio Network.
This is the Brisnet.com call-in show. The phone lines are open. Call now, 888-966-HRRN. That's 888-966-4776.
Welcome back to the Brisnet.com call-in show. Bobby Neuman, Vance Hansen. Phone lines are open. Give us a call, 888-966-4776. Short segment here, and we'll go out to the phones now. Charles in Mississippi. You've got Bobby and Vance, my friend.
Hey, Bobby. Hey, Vance.
Hey, Charles.
Before I get into this weekend's racing, Bobby, I want to thank Vance for about 3 weeks ago. He gave the horse Blue Stripe out on the Pick 3 parlay on Saturday morning. And I think that horse paid $11.20, Vance. But I really appreciate that.
Anytime.
The other thing I want to talk about, just real quickly, and I don't want to convict anybody or talk to anybody, but I was absolutely stunned by what the Chad Brown incident. And that really just, I don't like violence, Bobby, and I especially don't like any violence toward women. And if any part of that account is true about him throwing her down the stairs and choking her, it just kind of hurts me. But I'm going to leave that alone. I'm going to let him have his day in court. And, but that when I read that account of it, Bobby, it just really kind of upset me.
Well, let me ask you this, Charles, because it sounds like you and I and a lot of people have the same theory on this. First of all, we let the court play it out. You know, everyone in this country, you're innocent until you're proven guilty. Obviously, if he is found guilty of what they say he did, I hope that he is punished the way anyone else would be punished for those crimes. If he's found innocent of those crimes, then I hope, that it's kind of it's never going to be forgotten, but I hope it's put on the back burner. But like you, we don't like hearing these things. Our first thought is we hope nobody got hurt. And secondly, let the justice system play out and let's see what happens.
Yeah, and like I said, Bobby, I've had a tough life, but I've never laid my hands on a female in my life, and I've had females slap my glasses off. I had one female try to kill me with her husband's Cadillac. So I'm not talking that, I can just tell you, there's no situations you can subdue a woman without choking her or throw her down some stairs. And you don't give a key to a woman if you don't have a familiarity with that woman. That's all I'm going to say. But I mean, it really hurts me.
Let's not get further into that because there's obviously more to the story, and all we know, all that's public is what's public, and there will be more on it coming up. And it sounds like he's got his day in court in a couple weeks, and we'll find out more about exactly what happened and what didn't happen, and we can kind of reserve judgment. But I don't think anyone disagrees with what you're saying, Charles. Listen, we don't like violence, and violence against women and children is the worst kind. I did find it kind of funny that in your story of the woman trying to kill you with her husband's Cadillac, that you have some sort of brand recognition. You didn't just mention that it was her husband's car. You mentioned that it was a Cadillac, as if that has some sort of significance to the story.
Well,
I don't know
can
what
tell you,
that's
Bobby,
about.
I was on foot, and she was going about 50 miles an hour, and a Cadillac is a very wide car, and I had to jump out of the way of the Cadillac. But that happened when I was like 28 or 29. But anyway, I'm going to go on to it's a wonderful card at Saratoga this weekend. And the horses, I love Charge It, man. And when I saw that he had that foot abscess, that ruined my day. But I really think Malathont will run big. I'm going to tell you a horse that in that race I think also will run big. I think Zandon will run big, and I'm just going to enjoy the card, and I'll be listening, and I'm going to tell you, I haven't made up my mind yet, but I know I'm going to bet Malathont because I just think I think Pletcher's on a bit of a roll, Bobby Van. So I'm going to hang up, and I'll listen to you guys, and I enjoy the show. Thanks, guys.
We appreciate it, Charles. Thanks very much. All right, so it's a filly who I liked a lot last year, Vance, Malathat. In fact, I loved her in the Breeders' Cup Distaff, and she didn't have the greatest of trips, and she didn't run on the best part of the track, and she ran third, which is just absolutely awful for me. But she has not been able to get the better of Clairiere of late, and because of that, probably going to get a better price than we've seen in quite a while on Malathat. What's your thoughts on her in the personal ensign?
Well, I think there's a good possibility she runs a better race. I know Pletcher has been quoted since the Chevy that she was very dull and listless in the paddock that day, very quiet. And Johnny Velasquez also noted that in the warm-ups prior to the race. And they were actually complimenting her after the race, considering her pre-race behavior. They were very impressed that she actually did run second in the Chevy behind Clairiere. So, there's a very strong possibility that, if she's on her toes, if she's of good mental mind on Saturday, she can turn the tables on Clairiere. I mean, she's, like you said, she was a quality filly champion last year. And so, yeah, perfectly logical for her to step back up and reassert herself in the division.
We've got a couple of really good sprints earlier in the card, one being the Forgo, one being the Allen Jerkins, and we're going to have heavy favorites in both of those races. Jackie's Warrior, who's going to be a heavy favorite against sprinters wherever he runs, 1-2 on the morning line in the Grade 1 Forgo, facing a field of 6 others. In the Allen Jerkins, 3-year-olds sprinting, Jack Christopher gets back around one turn, and he figures to be a solid favorite. Of those two, which one do you think there's a better chance of upsetting?
I would probably say Jack Christopher. I'm not too impressed with the rivals that Jackie's Warrior is facing in the Forgo. Comparatively speaking, I think Jack Christopher is probably facing a slightly more contentious field, but I don't think I'll be standing against either of them, to be honest with you. I think they both look really solid on paper.
Yeah, they certainly do, and they're very low on the morning line, and they may be even lower than that at post time. Jackie's Warrior 1-2, Jack Christopher 6-5, respectively, in the Forgo and the Allen Jerkins, both part of that monster Travers Day card this Saturday at Saratoga. All right, we're going to take our final break. When we come back, Vance is going to update us on what's going on at Brisnet this week. He's going to give us his play of the weekend. We still might have a chance for one or two calls. So the phone lines are open. Give us a call. 888-966-4776 is the number. This is the Brisnet.com call-in show on HRRN.
This is the Brisnet.com call-in show. The phone lines are open. Call now. 888-966-HRRN. That's 888-966-4776.
Do you want unlimited access to handicapping without exorbitant prices? Then Brisnet.com has you covered with a variety of plans for past performances, pedigree, and raw data. Brisnet.com Performance Plan covers unlimited PDF past performances for just $85 per month and is available at Brisnet.com/plans. American Produce Records Online puts the pedigrees of nearly 1 million dams and more than 2 million foals at your fingertips. Plus, Sire Stats for only $275 per year and is available at Brisnet.com/APR. The Brisnet.com data plan offers unlimited access to race day data files, perfect for handicappers with their own database or to plug into other people's programs. The data plan is $125 per month. Visit Brisnet.com for all this information and more, and discover why Brisnet is the handicapper's edge.
Mark your calendars for the biggest night of racing in Charlestown history. It's the Grade 2 $1 million Charlestown Classic and Grade 3 $500,000 Charlestown Oaks to be run on the same night, Friday, August 26th. This spectacular card features 7 stakes races and over $2.5 million in purses. Post time is scheduled for 5 o'clock Eastern under the Friday night lights. It's the Charlestown Classic and Charlestown Oaks on Friday, August 26th here at Hollywood Casino at Charlestown Races.
Race the Twin Spires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, Twin Spires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. Twin Spires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit twinspires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Want to get the latest HRRN content directly on your computer or mobile device? Then subscribe to our podcasts using the Podbean app or Apple Podcasts. Just go to hrrn.podbean.com on your computer and click follow, or download the Podbean app and search HRRN. You can also find us on Apple Podcasts and listen to our latest episodes anytime. Don't miss a thing. Subscribe to our podcasts today.
Hi, this is Doug O'Neill. My favorite radio show is the Horse Racing Radio Network.
This is the Brisnet.com call-in show. The phone lines are open. Call now. 888-966-HRRN. That's 888-966-4776.
Welcome back. Final segment on the Brisnet.com call-in show. Bobby Neuman, Vance Hansen, taking you to the top of the hour. Phone lines are open. 888-966-4776 is the number. Vance, I know Brisnet always has great specials on the weekend. They've got to have something really good for this Travers card.
Absolutely. The Travers Day card is typically, one of the top 10 betting cards of the year in this country. Total handle is probably going to be in excess of 40 million, maybe approaching 50 million. So everybody out there will want to participate on that. And your one-stop shop, as always, is at Brisnet.com. And we've got past performances, picks, and data files on for the Travers Day card at Saratoga. You can access it all at Brisnet.com/Saratoga.
Vance, if we were talking before the break about a couple of big favorites that are on some of the supporting graded stakes on that Travers program, with Jackie's Warrior in the Forego and Jack Christopher in the Allen Jerkins. If somebody was looking, if there are people out there, and there are obviously a lot of people out there who are thinking that one or both of these horses are winning these races, especially with Jackie's Warrior, who's probably going to be closer to 1-5 at post time. If you're wanting to bet on either the Forego or using the Forego in the races, how are you turning what is likely a 1 or 2-5 shot into something that's a little bit more fruitful? Are you looking at exactas? Are you looking at doubles and pick threes and pick fours? Take Jackie's Warrior, for instance. If he's the winner, are we looking to try to find somebody underneath or longer prices in adjoining races?
Yeah, I'd probably be looking at the verticals more than the horizontals. Like you said, a lot of people are going to be keying him in race exotics. So I mean, there's really and more than likely they'll everybody else is going to have the same idea and spread in other legs of a pick three, pick four. So yeah, I'd be looking at the vertical exotics here, and there are a couple of interesting horses he's running against. Cody's Wish in particular, who's won, uh, 5 of his last 6 starts for Bill Mott. He's probably the obvious second choice in there. So, as far as value is concerned, hitting an exacta hard or trying to pick a cold trifecta or a small trifecta wheel in the race is probably the way to go to make money on a very formidable odds-on favorite.
I'm not going to give anything away as far as who I like, but I can tell you this. I don't think Jack Christopher is a cinch in the Jerkins. I think it'll be tough to beat Jackie's Warrior in the Forego, but I think there's a chance that Jack Christopher can get beat in the Jerkins. Not that I don't respect him. I think he's really, really good. I just think, like you, that there may be a deeper field of competition that he's going to be running against on Saturday. There's another there are several. I shouldn't say there's another. There are several very interesting races on Saturday. They're not all at Saratoga. The featured race on Saturday at Del Mar is the Grade 2 $250,000 Pat O'Brien. And you kind of laugh because Speaker's Corner shows up as the 6-5 morning line favorite in the race for Bill Mott. I don't think Mott's run any horses at Del Mar thus far this meet. He doesn't usually send horses to Southern California unless it happens to be, Breeders' Cup time. And you kind of feel bad for Speaker's Corner because he may have run against the 2 best horses in the country in his last 2 starts, and Flightline and Life is Good. The good news is he doesn't have to run against those horses in the Pat O'Brien. The bad news is he had to travel 3,000 miles to avoid those kind of horses.
Exactly. Yeah, like you said, he's a pretty heavy favorite on the morning line in the Pat O'Brien, and it's not an easy field he's facing either. And many of the other major contenders have winning form over that track. And, you historians listening out there, Bill Mott once sent a very formidable, unbeatable looking horse to Del Mar in the past named Cigar for the Pacific Classic, and you saw what happened there. So there's some not so great history with Mott trained heavy favorites over that track, but Speaker's Corner definitely does look like a serious contender. I thought he was, the best looking 1-turn miler in the country very early in the year, before Flightline got revved up and before Life is Good returned from the Middle East. And they've kind of usurped him since then. But yeah, Speaker's Corner does obviously look very good in that race, but I think he could be very vulnerable against some of the locals there.
All right, interesting to note there, and it is a big field of 10 going the 7 furlongs in the Pat O'Brien, including some stalwarts who seem to run all the time in Southern California. Bing Crosby winner American Theorem is in the race. Several of the other horses who ran behind him. CZ Rocket, who's a past champion of the Bing Crosby a few years ago, is back in good form for Peter Miller. He's one of 2 for Pete Miller in the race. Laurel River, who's kind of an unspoken an untalked about Bob Baffert trainee that looks like he's headed the right direction in the race, so should be a fun edition of the Pat O'Brien. Speaking of Del Mar, and Vance, probably not going to have a chance to talk to you between now and next weekend, the marquee event of the Del Mar season, other than opening day, is, of course, Pacific Classic Day, and that's going to take place a week from Saturday. And the Lightning Rod, the horse that everyone talks about, yay or nay, in this country, is going to be making a rare appearance. Flightline going to be trying 1.25 miles for the first time. Do you have any reservations about him getting that extra distance of 1.25 miles?
A little bit. If he wasn't facing, if the rest of the field wasn't, looking to be, very serious contenders, I wouldn't have as many reservations. But I do think Country Grammar probably got a lot out of his prep in the San Diego Handicap. I think he's going to be a lot tougher over 1.25 miles than he was 1 1/16 miles. He's the primary challenger to Flightline. I think Flightline is deserving of whatever odds he goes off at. I assume it'll be in the odds-on territory. He is kind of a a once in a generation talent, possibly. I mean, based on the figures he's put up and from what little we've seen of him in his career, I don't see a mile and a quarter being too much of an issue. But against a quality opponent like Country Grammar, there is a little bit cause for concern there.
Do we know yet that the San Diego Handicap earlier in the meet came up way tougher than the San Diego Handicap normally comes up at Del Mar, and we had some horses coming from other parts of the country, including Mandaloon, show up in the race. Is Mandaloon looking at the Pacific Classic as well, or is he skipping it?
That I don't know, but I would say that based off his performance in the San Diego, I don't know if I would be in a great rush to try the Pacific Classic, especially against Flightline. Mandaloon doesn't seem to have hasn't seemed to have made as much progress this year as his connections probably hoped for. So, I'll leave it at that.
All right. Should be a fun edition of the Pacific Classic next Saturday at Del Mar. And, of course, this Saturday is the $250,000 Pat O'Brien, where Speaker's Corner figures to be a solid favorite. Not a cinch in the race, but certainly he's been facing some of the toughest horses, probably not only in the country but in the world in his last two starts, and he hasn't been making much of an impression against horses like Flightline and Life is Good, but he doesn't have to worry about Flightline or Life is Good on Saturday at Del Mar, so he should find the waters a little bit calmer when he tries that Pat O'Brien. All right, we're getting close to the end of the show, Vance. This is traditionally the time where our colleague James Scully will give out some horse that he's really looking forward to playing this weekend. Doesn't necessarily have to be in the weekend's biggest race, but somebody he's really looking forward to playing. Is there somebody out there somewhere in North America that you can't wait to play this weekend?
Well, I think the most interesting horse to me is in the Sword Dancer at Saratoga on Saturday, a race we didn't touch on yet, and that's number 1, Adamo for Chad Brown, a 4-year-old who's making his 5th start in this country. I think he's developing into the best longer distance turf male in the country based on what we've seen so far. I think he had some unlucky trips in his first 3 outings in this country. Lost to lone speed horses at fairgrounds and to a stablemate in the Manhattan 2-back. Then I'm assuming he just didn't handle the tricky new Churchill Downs turf course on Derby Day, but he really put it all together in the United Nations last time, rallying to win by a length and a half. And I think he's just peaking and getting good at the right time. He's facing a lot of grizzled veterans in the Sword Dancer. He's still got a lot of upside, and he's stretching out even more, an extra furlong off his last race. I think he's going to be really good over a mile and a half on Saturday. So Adamo, who I think was listed at 7-2 on the morning line, second choice. He looks really good to me in the Sword Dancer.
All right, he is 7-2 on the morning line, and that's race 10 on that big card this Saturday at Saratoga. Approximate post time, 5:05 Eastern time. By the way, you can hear Vance Hansen on Saturday morning as part of the Twin Spires triple play on the Equine Forum presented by Twin Spires. Vance going to give out 3 selections, and obviously we know our friend Charles in Mississippi has listened and probably will be listening once again, and maybe you can come up with another $11.20 winner. I don't know if Adamo will play that much if he gets the job done, but he may not be favored in the Grade 1 Sword Dancer. Vance, looking forward to hearing what you've got to say on the Equine Forum this Saturday morning. It's been a lot of fun, my friend, and really enjoyed this. I know you're pinch hitting today, but we welcome your at-bats anytime here on the Brisnet.com call-in show, my friend.
Well, thank you, Bobby. I had a good time, and we'll talk down the road.
All right, sounds good. Vance Hansen pinch hitting for his colleague and good friend James Scully, who is getting his full degeneracy on this weekend, and we can't blame him for that. It's Travers weekend. James is at Saratoga, and he is looking forward to diving in all weekend up at the spa. That's going to wrap it up on tonight's edition of the Brisnet.com call-in show. On behalf of producer Lee Delapina, my co-host Vance Hansen, I'd like to thank all of the callers and the listeners. Thanks for joining us this evening. A reminder, another big day on the network tomorrow. Betting with Bobby from 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern Time. We'll have live coverage from Saratoga. Also interviews with trainers Peter Miller and Kelly Von Hemo. And then, of course, the Weekend Stakes preview tomorrow night. Dave Friedman joins me to look at a dozen races from around North America this weekend. Have a great night, everybody.